Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started, so if you'll just take a seat. We want to welcome everyone to the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce Lonestar Legislative Summit. We thank you all for joining us on this early morning. It's going to be a great day. But this could not have happened without the help of a lot of people, so I've got a couple of people we need to thank. First off, our presenting sponsor, the Texas Healthcare Association. These guys right here, we could not be here without your support, so thank you so much. We also want to thank our Blue Topaz sponsor, Cheniere Energy. I don't think they have any representatives but there's a great committee, the Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee, who put this together. And if you were on that committee, if you could just raise your hand. Thank you. We have an amazing chamber staff. They are probably all outside, but let's just give them a round of applause anyway. In the back of the room, we have Rusty Rust, who is our current chamber chair and the president of the Commercial Bank of Texas. Of course, none of this would be possible without Senator Robert Nichols and Representative Travis Clardy, who brought all these great folks to Nacogdoches so that they could learn a little bit more about us. So thank you so much. We'd also like to thank Stephen F. Austin for being our host today for our long day event, and we couldn't have picked a better place. So thank you so much. We are starting just a little bit behind, but our goal today is to stay on time because we've got a lot of things to do, a lot of things to cover, and it's going to be a full day. We have been blessed in Nacogdoches to have a lot of great support from our local elected officials, and one of those is our own County Judge Mike Perry, and he's going to go ahead and start us off with an invocation.
Thank you all. We appreciate everyone being here. If you would, pray with me. Dear Jesus, we thank you for our many blessings. We thank you for everything that you do for us and for these people that have been mentioned and our elected officials that have driven a distance. Pray we're thankful for them. Pray you'll be with them on their return trip. Pray you forgive us all of our many sins and shortcomings and keep us in the center of your will. Keep your hand upon us at all times. Pray that you watch over us and bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning. My name is Adam Peck. I'm the Dean of Student Affairs here at Stephen F. Austin, and it is my great pleasure to be one of the people to welcome you to our beautiful campus. We're so proud to host the Lonestar Legislative Summit, and I want to take just a moment to recognize some of our Board of Regents who are in attendance today. We have Mr. Barry Nelson from Dallas. I know that Bridget Henderson of Lufkin will also be here at some point today. We have Nelda Luce Blair of the Woodlands, and her husband Jim is with her today. I think many of us know David Alders, who will also be here throughout the day. Yeah, David deserves some applause, doesn't he? And then finally, I'd like to acknowledge our student regent, Miss Ryan Brown Moreno from Plano. And now to give you a very special welcome to SFA, it's my pleasure to introduce our president, Dr. Baker Patillo.
I would also like to welcome each one of you this morning for attending this summit here at Stephen F. Austin. I would especially like to thank the senators and representatives who are with us today. I know that a number of you have been on campus before and you're familiar with our campus, but I'm also aware that some of you that this will be your first trip to Nacogdoches or at least to SFA. And so while you're here today, we hope you will simply tour our campus and get a good feel for our university. You know what basically happens on the odd year, like 2017 coming up, you're in session in Austin, and we come to Austin. And you see us there January through May. We visit with your administrative assistants, or we visit with you when we can. And we give you a report on what we're doing at the university. And then, of course, as you would expect, we always have requests. And you're always very accommodating, and you do what you can do to assist us. And you do that by working and assisting Senator Nichols and Representative Clardy. And we appreciate what you do to assist them, and I'm sure likewise they assist you back in your district. I would also be remiss this morning if I did not thank you for the TRB that you approved for $46.4 million for us to build a new STEM building. I want you to know that we're well underway on that project. We have employed the architect and the contractor. We're meeting with the architects at least on every 2 weeks. The plans are well underway. We have graduation on May the 14th, and as soon as graduation is over, we'll start taking down 2 old dorms where the location will be for our new STEM building. And once again, when we have that building completed, and we'll have a ribbon cutting and open house, etc., in all probability that'll be 2018. We will invite you to that event and hope you can attend, and you will know always that you were part of making that STEM building possible here at SFA. So once again, we thank you for coming to SFA today. We want you to tour the campus and feel welcome, and we have a lot of staff members here. If there's anything any of us can do to assist you today, please let us know. Once again, welcome to SFA.
I'd also like to thank everybody for being here. They've got a great program lined out all day. I will tell you that we appreciate SFA hosting this on their facility, and we've got people coming in, members of the legislature from all around the state. House members, Senate members normally don't leave their districts, but for this, we very much appreciate the effort that they have taken to come here. And on the Senate side, I was going to introduce, they're not all here right now, so we brought in Senator Lois Kokor, spent a number of years in the House as Chair of Health and Human Services, now serves in the Senate on Finance, and she's Vice Chair of Health and Human Services. She's from Brenham. That's Bluebell Country. Larry Taylor, Senator Taylor, came in from Friendswood, that's Houston. He's in the insurance business. He is Chair of Education in the Senate. The mileage award goes to Charles Perry from Lubbock. He came here all the way from Lubbock, Texas. He's Chair of Ag, Water, and Rural Affairs. He told me he had a little bit of trouble finding it because he's used to, when he's driving in West Texas, looking 10 miles at a time. And here he said everything is trees, every hill. But we appreciate him coming. Senator Brandon Creighton, freshman. He's from Conroe. He served as a House member on the south end of my Senate district for a number of years. Great guy. He's Vice Chair of Business and Commerce, and he's Chair of the Select Committee on Ports, special committee set up. Kirk Watson also will be with us here today. He is the former mayor of Austin. He was going to drive his motorcycle all the way up, but I think the rain kind of messed that up, the mist. But he and I came in as freshmen together in 2007. He's also on finance, and so you can see we have a good selection of rural, urban, men, women, a good variety from the Senate. So we're well represented. Look forward to seeing y'all all day long today, and we had a great reception last night. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator. I'm Travis Clardy, your state representative, and I want to apologize for the senator's comments this morning. Last time we did this in the off year, we had I was asked to help get a number of speakers here, some folks that come in, and so I threw out the invitation to my buddies in the House of Representatives, and they all showed up. And so we had the opening ceremony, and here's 15 representatives, and Robert kind of looked over there, and he's the senator, and it was like, and all of a sudden I created a monster, because this time I said, we need to get some guests, and would you invite some senators? Well, his competitive nature kicked in. And so he called me after like a day of, we need to get some people. So, all right, Clardy, I've got 6 senators coming, and we all know 1 senator's worth 5 representatives. So you owe me 35 representatives. And so we've been working on it. I didn't quite get there. By the way, I do not agree. Oftentimes, Dr. Zerwas, you know this, we do not agree with Senate math. But we've got a great group of folks, both representatives and senators, and also from the executive side, a great bunch of commissioners and folks in that branch. We've got a great program lined up for you. I'm not going to go through the entirety of it. We'll do that throughout the day, but some fantastic panels. And we've got an interesting group of people. We have this morning, you're going to hear from Commissioner Morath, who's going to be introduced by Dr. Patillo. But we also have Commissioner Traylor. Did Chris make it in this morning yet? He has no excuse because last night, where some of the guys were moving a little slow, we spent our time organizing the card catalog at the Christian Science Reading Room last night. And so we're a little behind schedule. But Chris turned in. And we'll have him here, but we really do have with Commissioner Morath, Commissioner Traylor, HHSC. We have Tracy McDaniel, our director of the Texas Economic Development Corporation, and also Brendan Anthony's here, the Texas Music Office. So we're starting off this morning with some pretty wonky issues, kind of detailed policy, which I think you'll find interesting. But we're going to conclude with music, Texas music and culture. Which should be a fun thing to discuss, and which will kick off with some entertaining people, which will then lead into the Nacogdoches Music Festival, which, let me put a shameless plug and self-promotion here for the fair city of Nacogdoches. Is a great event. It's going to be a 4-day festival. I think we have around 40 bands. Donna, is that right? 3 different venues, all downtown. So for 4 days, it's going to be a lot of fun. So those of you that are visiting with us, don't rush off. Spend your money in Nacogdoches. Enjoy the music. Have fun. I think you'll have a great time. But this is something we've started recently, and I think it really fits nicely with what we're doing here with the Legislative Summit. I do want to introduce a couple of folks here from the governor's office. Ashley Morgan. Ashley, do I see you in the room? She was working that card catalog pretty heavy last night. And Jay Dyer. I don't see Ashley and Jay. We did one thing I will say that we're really excited about, and I've told the folks here that have visited that this is a tremendous event. And again, Senator Nichols, thank you so much for putting this together as the co-host in the chamber of here in Nacogdoches for hosting this. And thank you, Dr. Patillo, for allowing us on your campus to do this. I guess you're going to tell them why we have yellow tape around the building during your introduction. That's not normally around. That's special decoration we provided for this event. But the folks here from the governor's office, it's good to have them I'm looking at Kelly in the back. She's waving at me. Okay. And but having the governor's office is important for us in the leadership that Governor Abbott has. We have a special video production that we're going to be showing in a little bit. I'm hoping we're good on that. All right, we are. And so I think what we ought to do is let me sit down and quit talking. We'll introduce each of these events, each of these panels as they come up. We're going to have some interesting things for us. Before each panel, we have a little entertainment, a little vignette of Nacogdoches history, because in addition to being the oldest town in Texas and the home of SFA, this is our tricentennial, the 300th anniversary of Nacogdoches, as a special event. Yes, you can clap, Judy. It's okay. And so we're commemorating that with some historical reenactment today that you'll get to enjoy before each panel as we introduce the panelists and the issues. And so it's gonna go one into the other. I don't think you'll be bored other than having to listen to me, and it'll be a great time for today. So I'm going to turn this over if our audiovisual folks are ready. We're going to watch the governor of the great state of Texas, Greg Abbott, welcome us to the event.
Good morning. I'm Governor Greg Abbott. As an East Texas boy myself, I know that no one can speak about the rich history of Texas or its bright future without including Nacogdoches. A better future for Texas is what this past legislative session was all about. That's why we cut taxes for both businesses and for families. In fact, Texas led the nation by cutting taxes by $4 billion. We also spent money wisely to secure the border, to improve our schools, and to build better roads. We advanced higher education more than ever. And I'm proud of the regents I appointed to SFA who will take that university to new heights. Thanks to all of my partners in the legislature, including my good friends, Representative Travis Clardy and Senator Robert Nichols. We accomplished so much this past session. Now, going forward, we will make sure that Texas remains the land of opportunity. We will focus on things like workforce skills to prepare students for good jobs and to fill the needs that our workforce demands. We will continue to improve our schools from early education all the way to higher education. And with oil prices still low, we need to find ways to tighten the belt of government, while also, at the same time, continuing our efforts to cut your taxes even more. I want to thank the Nacogdoches Chamber, your local leaders, and each of you for your hard work at this summit and for spurring economic expansion in East Texas. And I congratulate you on this, the tricentennial year of Nacogdoches. You know, the last 300 years have been great, but the next 300 will be even better. May God bless each and every one of you, and may He forever bless the great state of Texas. Thank you.
I did not realize that I was going to be speaking on yellow tape this morning. But you never know when Travis Clardy's around what he's going to ask you to do next. But yes, there's some yellow tape around. Basically what happened a few weeks ago, we had a very, very small fire, and the water sprinklers came on and took care of all that. But a short time after that, we had a pipe at a higher level that basically burst, and water by the gallons or hundreds or thousands of gallons came from upstairs all the way down through. Did much damage to our walls, our floors, our carpet, our furniture, etc. We've had to have a recovery team here that's been working on doing and repairing this extensive damage. We had intended to take care of that ourselves because this is an auxiliary building. But since Representative Clardy was willing to call it to your attention this morning, I will expect him in the next legislative session to come through with a special appropriations to cover this. This morning, it's my privilege to give a very, very short introduction on our new Commissioner of Public Education, Mike Marath. He's been in his job for approximately 2 months now. He assumed the responsibilities on January 4th, 2016. And in that position, he oversees the Texas Education Agency. And that agency oversees education in Texas, public education. Covers from pre-kindergarten through the high school levels. And at the current time, we have approximately 5 million students in our public schools. That's the traditional high schools as well as the charter schools. Now, he has experience in working with public schools. He served as a trustee for the Dallas Independent School District for some 4 years. And it's astonishing what happened while he served as a trustee in that 4 years. In that 4 years, they received an increase in their bond rating on 2 different occasions. They increased their reserve funds by $200 million. And they instituted new auditing procedures. But he emphasized academic accomplishment, improvement, accountability, etc. And by the time he finished his 4-year term, they had increased their kindergarten reading readiness by the kindergarten readiness by 13%. They had increased their reading scores and et cetera by some 9%. They increased their math scores 9% based on the state or on a national test. And they increased their graduation rates by 11%. And their minorities on their advanced placement exams basically outscored every urban school in the nation. So very successful 4 years he spent there. He believes very, very strongly in public education because he's a product of public education himself. Graduated from Garland High School, Garland Independent School District, and he says he received a quality education there. And because of that quality education, he was able to go to George Washington University, and there he earned his Bachelor of Business degree, summa cum laude, in only 2.5 years. One of his highlights was establishing one of his first businesses. His high school there at Garland came to him and asked him if he would teach an advanced placement, advanced computer science course. And he agreed to do so because the teacher of that course had resigned abruptly and left. So he finished teaching that course for the entire year and until they were able to hire a new professor. And he says he's still amazed at how difficult it is to teach. He also has a strong belief in assisting others. And one of the things he's done, or a couple of things he has done, he has served as a volunteer in many different areas. One in his church mission group. He's also worked in schools. He has worked in juvenile delinquent centers, etc. And he has served as a mentor to the Big Brother organization. He also helped organize a trip to southern India to install a safe water system there. And also, one of his special trips, I know very special to him, was he volunteered to go to Mexico, to rural Mexico, and to work in an eye clinic. And while he was there, he met another volunteer by the name of Dr. Laura Vondran. She is now his wife. And they have a small girl, and a boy is on the way. And congratulations, Mr. Commissioner. And so we're very proud to have him serve as our Commissioner of Public Education. We're indeed fortunate to have him in Nacogdoches this morning at Stephen F. Austin State University, where he has agreed to be our keynote speaker this morning. So at this time, I would ask you to join me in helping welcome our Commissioner of Public Education, Mike McGrath.
You know, I joke with folks about that trip to this eye clinic in Guerrero, Mexico. It's a little town outside of Chihuahua City. I don't speak Spanish and I have no medical skills, so I went down there and basically cleaned medical instruments and cooked people breakfast and killed bugs. But I like to think that I did have some positive impact on folks while I was down there. But the big lesson for me is giving is its own reward. I come out of that deal and I met the woman that the love of my life, and now I have a beautiful little girl from that, and God willing, a beautiful little baby boy coming out here in about a month. So I definitely encourage us, everybody, to serve as much as possible, because that's what we're called to do, and the blessings that can pile up on us from that is sometimes unforeseen and quite amazing. I am so thankful to be here today. Very honored that the governor, of course, has given me this opportunity to serve in a new capacity. For the last 5 years, I served on the school board in Dallas, and you heard some of the outcomes highlights that we focused on. But my path to being a public education advocate was an unusual one. I ran a software company for about a decade. We built a system that really streamlined a federal child nutrition program. We reduced the administrative costs in this program by 13%. And it was a lot of hard work for sure. I think the first 4 years that I was running that company, I worked probably about 80 hours a week, and like any tale of the American dream, I was broke. I think I paid myself about $15,000 for the first 4 years before we could really turn the corner on the company and make it successful. But we did. We turned the corner and made it successful. I was able to sell that company a few years ago, and as a quasi-retired 30-something, volunteered full-time on the Dallas School Board, which of course is unpaid, and it's a great job. Nobody ever questions your judgment or integrity or motivations. But it was, my path there was not an easy one, and of course I experienced many failures along the way before this company, my most recent company, was successful. I had another software company, a .com, that I started just out of college, and that was a sort of catastrophic failure. And I certainly learned a great deal from that. You learn much more from your failures than you do your successes. But I was still very well prepared regardless. I had a phenomenal public school education. When we moved to Texas when I was about 10, my mom calls TEA, this is of course pre-internet, and asks, where should we move for my little boy to get a great education? And so the first 5 or 6 people said, all of our schools are the same, you can go anywhere you want to and you'll get a great education. Then she got somebody that was a little bit more honest and said, why don't you move to Garland? They've got this vertically aligned magnet pathway, international baccalaureate diploma program, and if your kid gets into that, he'll get a great education. And I did. I came out of high school in Garland with 36 hours of college credit, which allowed me to graduate so quickly from GW. I got a full ride to GW from my great public school education. It was, of course, a lot of hard work along the way, but there were 2 things that I had no control over. I didn't get to pick the schools my parents put me into, and I certainly won the jackpot there. And I didn't get to pick my parents either. And I was born to 2 parents that loved each other and loved me very much, and they weren't rich, but I never really suffered from want. And that was a phenomenal break. I don't know why God chose to bless me in that way, but He did. And along the way, I've been a big brother now for about 10 years with the Big Brothers program. And my first little, I've been matched to 2 different littles over the years. And my first little, it was, obviously it's a very emotional and moving experience. I encourage everybody to become a big brother or big sister. I mean, imagine how different the world would be if we all took responsibility for one life that we didn't have to. But the sort of intellectually, removing myself from the emotion of the experience, comparing my life to that of my little was an absolute exercise in contrasts. He didn't really know his father, and his mom loved him, wanted the best for him, but his mom was in and out of rehab pretty much the entire time that we were matched, and so he had it rough. And he was a kid in Dallas ISD schools and DISD schools, and I would talk to him about what he was doing in school and what he was learning and how he was engaged. And what became clear to me, abundantly clear to me, is that despite the best efforts of our educators, despite a huge number of angels that we have in the classrooms, that he was just sort of getting lost in the system. There was nobody that ever said, I'm going to lay hands on you and I'm not letting you get past me. And we failed him. We did. When he was 16, he went to apply for a job at Brahms, and I helped him. And it became abundantly clear that he couldn't fill out the job application without my help. He was not functionally literate, even though he'd been promoted through our schools. And I got to a point with my company where I could decide, I can make more money. I can keep after this. But I just couldn't do it. I guess I'm governed by a creed that you do for the least of my brothers, you do for me. And I could not sit by and let this happen to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids, because our system isn't designed to support them the way that they need support. And so ultimately I decided to throw away a perfectly good life and sell my software company and run for the school board. And I'm certainly I planned becoming commissioner of education from that, but no. So But the work is necessary. This is what I feel called to do. I have felt called to do, and I think that we can make an impact, a major impact on the lives of so many of our young people, and it's necessary work. I mean, even if you don't care about young people, it's necessary for the economy. It's necessary for the future of our republic to get public education right as we can. As Commissioner of Education now, I'm faced with a new job relative to my job as a school board member, and so I still have so much to learn just about the space. Of course, I wasn't a career educator, and understanding how our schools work and the challenges that they have, especially in rural settings. I mean, I have a fairly good background growing up in the suburbs of Dallas, and then serving on the big city school district board. So I'm going around the state and talking to folks and listening to folks to find out what the challenges are that we face everywhere. But even as I sort of inform my own actions from that listening to her, I've got sort of three general priorities that I think I need to focus on within the agency. And I think priority number one is really supporting our educators. No school system, no system of schools outperforms its teachers. And what we do to love on those who love on our kids is so critically important. We've got to provide the most effective supports possible to help teachers, regardless of the environment in which they teach, improve their ability to serve our kids. This is, I think, our first and primary mission in public education, is supporting our educators. To get results, which focuses on the sort of second key priority. The discussion point, the concept of what it is that we have a public system of education for. What is it that we hope it to accomplish? What expectations do we have for our kids? And from them, what expectations do we have for our schools? This conversation about the outcomes that we want to see our young people prepared for coming out of our schools, this is a critical piece of the conversation. And one of the biggest challenges that I had as a school board member in Dallas was answering a fairly basic question, which is, are our schools getting better? Are they getting worse, or are they staying the same? And that requires this framework, this outcomes framework to understand. And without that outcomes framework, then all we can ever do is argue over inputs. And that doesn't necessarily lead us to a place where we are maximizing the potential of all of our little bundles of energy that come into our school system. And so getting this outcomes conversation right is such a critical piece of public education. And I think the traditional language for that is accountability. But I view this differently. It's a question about what do we do to set goals and expectations for our kids, and what kind of expectations then do we have for our schools, both on the academic side and the non-academic side. Where do we want to see them go, and do we have a framework of looking at outcomes that allows for continuous improvement? Because everybody can improve no matter where you are today. And allowing us to have an outcomes-based conversation, this is a critical piece of public policy, right? We fund public education. We spend a lot of tax money in this state on public education, and we need to know whether or not we're getting better results for kids, or we're getting the same results for kids, or we're getting worse results for kids. So my second key priority is that conversation, and I think the A through F framework that the legislature passed, that the governor championed, is such a key part of this, because the labels themselves, while they are relatively simplistic, it's the concept of this multiple tiers, that there is a difference between B-level performance and A-level performance. And if you're getting a B, then you can act on that to try to improve the work that you do for your kids to get to A-level performance. This is a key part of that outcomes and transparency conversation that I think we have to get right. And I think my third general priority with the agency is the agency itself. We are a regulatory body. We are our role is to implement legislation, but if you focus on compliance, I don't know any kid whose heart was lit on fire with a compliance checklist. What our role should be is to support performance improvements, period. And that's performance improvements in our schools, because TEA doesn't exist. It doesn't really even need to exist, right? But for the schools themselves, TEA doesn't exist. So what are we doing as an agency to support our schools and our districts out in the field to improve performance and improve the outcomes that we get for our kids? So this is sort of the key third priority that I have as Commissioner of Education. So this is what I'm going to try to focus on in the time for the time that I have. And of course, that time is a blessing. We're never given another day. We're never promised another breath. But for this brief period while I have breath, and I'm going to try to fight as hard as I can to get our kids a better future. And this is the central challenge of public education. You want to have business processes in public education because we are spending money, we are employing people. You can perform it and improve performance with business metrics. But this is not like a normal business. Our widgets take something like 15, 16 years to roll off the assembly line. They come in little bundles of energy, and our objective is to make them self-aware members of the republic. This is not like flipping houses or building buildings or writing software. It is an order of magnitude more complicated than any endeavor that I've ever been exposed to. And getting that right and working to drive improvements is tough work. And that, I think, what we at the agency need to do is support our educators in that tough work. So let me shift focus for just a minute and then just share with you the sum total of my experience from the Dallas School Board. So when I ran for the Dallas School Board and threw away my perfectly good, profitable life and in my peak earning years, decided I was going to take a job that didn't pay anything, and so I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this right. I wanted to do this in a way that really helped lives of kids. So I tried to study as much as I possibly could. I hailed every piece of reading material, every white paper I could find. I talked to parents and teachers and principals in Dallas, but really all over the country. Talked to education walks from coast to coast, and this challenge of public education is extremely difficult, but you can't fix it unless you sort of drill it down to bite-sized pieces. You've got to attack how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And so when I look at the challenge of public education, I think of really 4 key levers that we have to concentrate on from a public policy perspective. And these 4 key levers for change are governance, human capital, instruction, and scope. And so what do I mean by that? So governance are the people that are making decisions, or the people at the top of the system, are they making decisions in the best interest of kids, or do they have incentives to make decisions for some other reason? And I will tell you, having been on the school board in Dallas, that we have many, many incentives to make decisions for other reasons. But you have to use improvements of kids. You have to focus on kids as your North Star in this, and you have to have discipline in your governance framework and create incentives in your governance framework to do this. And this is what so many of the innovations that we talk about, charter schools and the like, are designed to try to fix these incentives and alignments so that those that are in charge are acting in the best interest of kids above all. But you also have to have an outcomes framework. You can't just sit there and argue over inputs. You've got to manage for outcomes, right? You have to have performance indicators. This is not necessarily Business 101, but Business 201, KPIs that you are managing around and governing around outcomes. And you have to foster cultures of servant leadership. These are, in fact, institutions of love that we have, and we're pouring love into kids to prepare them for the future that we want for our state. And so you have to see that sort of culture and that mindset come from those at the top of the system, and foster a culture of innovation and risk-taking as well, because without risk, you don't see some sort of progress. So if you see a system that is focused on compliance and punishment when there's failure, this is not the ideal sort of governing framework. So getting governance right is critical because we live in a world where stuff rolls downhill. But that's not the only problem. So if we wave the magic wand and solve our governance problems, you still have this problem of human capital next. And this is the basic problem. You have to have a great teacher in every classroom. You have to have a world-class principal in every school. And this is incredibly difficult in our culture, where, I mean, think about what your knowledge of, your cliche of teaching. When you travel to Korea and you ask them, what is your cliche, what is your default thought of the teaching profession? The cliche they will tell you is parent, king, teacher, all are equal. And then you fly back across the Pacific to Anywheresville, USA, and you ask, what is your cliche about teaching? And those who can do, those who can't teach. And this is a fundamentally broken view of the profession. This is one of the most difficult tasks that I've ever seen. You think about what a neurosurgeon does as they're scrubbing up for surgery, and they're going to go into an OR where there is an anesthetized patient, and they're thinking about the latest stuff that they've read in a medical journal, and they're thinking about the tools of the trade and all of their training and all of the variables and all the things that can go wrong while the patient is on the operating theater while they're responsible for that one brain. And then you think about a teacher who is responsible for 20 brains simultaneously, and incidentally, those patients aren't asleep. They're up and moving around and giving you some pretty active feedback. So this is a extraordinarily challenging profession, and we have to treat it and regard it and support it as such. And this problem at the teaching profession becomes even more acute when you think about principals, because they need to know teaching, but they also need to know how to lead. And these are difficult skills to develop. You develop leadership skills by making decisions and having scars on your back and living with them and adjusting along the way. So this is the inherent challenge of our human capital lever. Let's sort of wave a magic wand and solve that problem, and it brings us to the issue of instruction. And the issue of instruction, in my mind, is a problem both of what and how. The what problem of instruction, you can think of what we have in our school system. It's a standards-based instructional model. It's focused on English, math, science, and social studies. And these are critical skills. We've got to have this strong academic foundation in the lives of our kids. But think about your own lives and the skills that you needed to get to where you are today. And there's a lot more than English, math, science, and social studies. Sometimes it's about looking a man in the eye and shaking his hand and keeping your word. Sometimes it's about when you trip, picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and trying again, this sort of grit and perseverance. These other skills that are important and that we know our teachers teach. Our teachers know it's important. And of course, parents know that this is important. But our school system sort of reinforcing these skills in addition to the academic skills. This is an important part of the what conversation of public education. And then there's the how challenge of instruction. And the how challenge is, I've got 20, 25 kids in my classroom, and 5 or 10 of them are a year or maybe even 3 years behind where I want them to be. And 5 or 10 of them are a year behind where they want to be. And I got 5 right in the sweet spot, and I got 1 or 2 that are ahead of everybody, and they're so bored they're setting a trash can on fire, right? And so I have to somehow get to this span of human capacity to the same place at the same time at the end of the year. This is an unbelievably difficult logistical challenge. This is the how problem of instruction. And when you think about some of our rural settings, all of these problems sort of intertwine. The problem of finding talented teachers in AP physics and working with this broad skill set of kids that come into your classrooms. These are such a critical part of the puzzle. But then we're to this last lever of public education, which is this question of scope. And what do I mean by scope? Well, our school system, our K-12 system, was built, in the early 1900s, and it was modeled on making sure that middle-class farm kids got a good education. And while we still have a fair number of middle-class farm kids in the state of Texas, we don't have a whole lot of them in the city of Dallas. And the system just doesn't seem to work at scale. Given the sort of challenges that our kids bring into it. I mean, the average 5-year-old, when they enter school in Dallas, is between 12 and 18 months behind developmentally. I mean, think about that. These are kids that are 25% behind in life. And in the state of Texas, that number, incidentally, the number for kindergarten readiness in the state of Texas is only just north of 50%. So half of our kids are coming into kindergarten unprepared just for basic kindergarten level of instruction. Then you think about the problem of summer, and right. So we got a system that we pay for 9 months worth of education, and kids are off for a couple months in the summertime, but something happens. I mean, they have this educational oasis during the school year, and they're learning regardless. Rich kid, middle class kid, poor kid, you name it. They're learning in the school year. But in the summer, middle class kids, my kids, we're gonna tour Civil War battlefields, or we're gonna have band camp, or we're gonna have some sort of engaging activity. Or they're gonna hear me talk around the dinner table about current events and that sort of thing. But for a lot of kids, they just don't have that when they come home. It's not happening. And so we sort of suck capacity out of their brain in this 2 months over the summer. And so even though we're paying for 9 months worth of education, we only really get 7 months worth of education effectively, because when school starts back up, you got to spend a couple of months catching them up to what happened over the summer. These are all sort of proxy problems, though, this sort of scope problem. This is a proxy for something we don't necessarily like talking about. It's the problem of parents. Right? If our kids would just choose the right parents, most of these problems would go away. And it's up to parents to raise kids. It is inappropriate for government to sort of step in there. But we do have educational expectations and we have needs in the economy. And the question is can the resources of the public system, can our public school systems properly support our parents and empower our parents rather than taking decision-making away from them? Rather than reducing their responsibility. And I think the answer is yes, because frankly we have a lot of evidence to support that when the right kind of decisions are made, starting at the governance layer. And that's what we try to do in Dallas, of course. Anyway, so these are the 4 key levers of reform. And so this is my crib notes of everything that I've learned in Dallas in the last 4.5, minus the sort of death threats and other issues that you get on being on a big city school district. So it's great work, though. You serve on a school board. It is necessary work, because this is one of the things that I will tell people. The public schools, these are the schools that the public owns. This is not some other institution. The public owns these schools. And so, as I was traveling around Dallas over the last 4.5, 5 years, and now I'm traveling around the state, if maybe you like what I'm saying, and you say, I think that Mike's he's gonna help us. He's gonna move us forward. He's got it covered. And that's the end of the conversation. If you rely upon me to solve this problem, I assure you that I will fail. Because this problem is a large, complicated a problem. It is the biggest challenge, the challenge of ensuring that the next generation of Texans has a better life than the current and the last generation of Texans. This is a crowd participation event. This is a contact sport that involves all of us, and it requires all of our involvement. And so, if we're gonna see the change for our kids that we want to see for them, if we're gonna prepare for them the kind of future that we want them to have in Texas, it is gonna take a collective effort. It's gonna take the effort of chambers of commerce supporting school board members who are making courageous decisions on behalf of kids. This is it's going to take all of you. So, I feel like I'm, Uncle Sam, and we need you. I want you. I'm going to recruit you for the army that is necessary to support our kids. Because without your work, it's not going to happen. So, anyways, with that, I'll stop. I don't know if we have time for questions. I can't imagine we have a whole lot of time, but I'm certainly open for questions while I'm here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk.
We have a couple of minutes. Are there any questions, just tough ones, for Commissioner Morath? Because we are about to go to our next session. We are going to have a small breakout for certain invited guests in education. Let me say this about Commissioner Morath. We met a few months ago when he was just a school board member, and broke bread together in Dallas at a birthday function for a mutual friend, one of the members of the legislature. And I was impressed upon him. And I think it showed this morning. I was sitting there thinking, I hope maybe we can get him to consider education in a thoughtful and considered manner. And today, hearing his thoughts just reinforced what I heard. We've got to approach this problem in a new way. I do fundamentally believe in education in Texas. We can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results. And we have to do better than we're doing today. And I think that Mike's the right person to lead us in that direction. So, Commissioner, thank you for that. So we're going to, once you take your chair, you've had enough time with the microphone. And he's going to be on a panel in a little bit. I think Jerry Jones in the back is going to help direct folks to the breakout session with the educators. We're going to break camp here and move to the SFA movie theater for our first panel, which we will introduce there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to do at this moment. Housekeeping I need to take care of in the morning. Anybody yelling at me? Okay, I think we're good there. So again, thank you so much for being here this morning. This is a great start, great crowd for the Lone Star Legislative Summit. Again, Commissioner, thank you for taking time to be with us in Nacogdoches, Texas. And when we first, when I invited him to this, I got to tell this one short story, Baker. I said, now, you know, he's a Dallas guy, city guy, and we have to educate them. I go to Austin oftentimes to teach the gospel of East Texas. And so I'm saying, now, I'm calling you from Nacogdoches. We met at a dinner. I'd love you to come be part of this panel. I said, now, you may not know this, but Nacogdoches, we just rang the bell for the Texas Independence Day yesterday, the oldest university building in the state of Texas. And I was telling this history of education and how important it is, and this is the home of Stephen F. Austin State University. And I was about to go off and explain some things about the teaching college history of our fine institution here, and he interrupted me and went on about a 5-10 minute dissertation, Dr. Abbott, you'll be interested in this, of breaking down, here's the teachers that come out of SFA, here's what they do well, here's the things we need to focus on. And I said, okay, this guy gets it. He understands education. He understands not only about the students in the classroom, but the teachers we're preparing to teach those students. And so I really like his holistic approach to education, excited about the things he's going to do, and really excited that he might actually listen to me if I need to offer him an opinion, which I'm prone to do. So with that, let's thank you for coming. Somebody else will do the dishes. Just go on to the room, take a left, and we'll see you in a little bit.